Welcome back. As had been reported, Argentina held legislative elections today, a voting that could reshape the political landscape of the South American nation. For more details on the matter, we received Dozthor Zurlent, who is a political analyst and expert on the Latam Politics. Be welcome, Mr. Zurlent.
Hi, good morning. This is a great pleasure for me to be here with you guys. And I would like to congratulate the Argentinian people for having this parliamentary election today.
So from the South, and teleSUR English is voicing that congratulations, and also we are offering a special coverage of this voting day. So let's go to the first question, if we can.
Sure.
Okay, now go to the first question. The Argentines will renew 127 out of the 257 lower house seats and also 24 out of the 72 Senate seats. If this election follows the trend set back by the primaries, the PASO elections, the conservative forces could regain majority in both houses. What this will mean for the Fernandez administration and the Argentinian people?
This is a very crucial time for Latin American countries. We are witnessing a counteroffensive on the part of the US imperialism against progressive countries throughout the region. One of these countries, and one that is in a very difficult situation right now, is Argentina. Argentina, under the Macri government, really was under a lot of pressure from the US government and imperialism in general. And they committed the historical crime of taking this FMI loan that has pretty much been to bankruptcy, bring the government and the country to bankruptcy. It has had tremendous consequences on the daily life of Argentinians, and has become kind of life for Argentina have become like between the hard rock and the wall, because everything has been a lot difficult for them. Salaries have been increased recently as a result of the elections, but they are still not enough. And the government has taken measures like the freezing of medicine prices and stuff like that, but it's like a little bit too little too late. The tendency seems to be like the government is going to lose this election. The Fernandez, both with the same name, the same last name, both Cristina and Alberto, are like musicians, but playing two completely different songs. And they are not in synchrony. We have seen disparate positions on the part of President Alberto Fernandez, including positions favorable to the US government against Cuba and Venezuela, most recently against Nicaragua on the elections. Although he has tried to present himself sometimes as a progressive, most of his politics has been pretty much same as Macri's policies. So they have paid the Frente para Todos, which is the government front for this political event, has paid dearly because of these incongruent policies, which has led to lowering participation, lowering support. They got 48% of the vote in the presidential election, and in the PASO election, in the primaries that recently took place, they got only 31%. So it's a significant drop in the participation and in the support of people to the presidential election. And we have yearly consequences for this. They are going to lose the majority in the parliamentary. The Argentine parliament has two cameras. the deputy and in Congress, the senators, and so they both are going to have an opposition majority if the trend continues, and this will have tremendous consequences for the government, for the presidential government in Argentina.
Yeah, well, basically, we had other questions for you, but you have answered them even in your first intervention. But we have another question for you. So the Argentina position as part of their campaign have stressed in multiple occasions that under Fernandez's management, year-on-year inflation reached 52.1% in October, and the US dollar was quoted at 206.5 Argentine pesos at the informal market. But there are other sides of this story, as the economy is not a spontaneous phenomena. From where and when are coming these difficulties facing Fernandez's government?
The FMI loan has had tremendous impact at all levels of the Argentinian economy. And Argentina has to pay at least $19 billion by 2023. So the tremendous impact that this loan has had on the Argentinian economy has filtrated throughout all the levels, all the layers of the Argentinian society. So the worker has suffered, the private business also has suffered, those who are not linked to directly to the Macri mafia. And the government as itself has had to make important cuts on projects in financing of different social programs. So it has tremendous consequences. And one of the consequences is that the inflation and the loss value of the peso, Argentinian peso. So all of this is not casual. It is the direct consequence of policies implemented to make Argentina more dependent on imperialism, on the US and European countries, and make Argentina pay for their support to the progressive movement under the Kirchner government. Cristina was part of it. Cristina is not the president currently, she is vice president, but still they have used her as a target. They have accused her of different crimes which she didn't commit. She was absolutely let to go free from any of these spurious charges. But still, we can tell that there is a very tough offensive against the Argentinian government. And this is not just Argentina that the US is going against. We have tomorrow an event in Cuba organized by the US government openly to try to overthrow the Cuban government and try to overthrow the revolution. This is something that has no precedent in any of Cuban history, because the US government has had many attempts to overthrow the Cuban government and to assassinate Fidel Castro and other leaders of the Cuban Revolution. But it has been so blatant. I mean, it has been so openly expressed that they want to overthrow the government that it is really outrageous. And this has also happened in Nicaragua. We have the coup d'etat in Bolivia. We have the attempt to assassinate and to assassinate President Maduro and to overthrow the government in Venezuela. I mean, it's really a very tough counteroffensive against the popular movement and the progressive movement throughout Latin America.
So we thank you, Mr. Zurlent, for your time and presence hearing from the South.
Can I add some little bit of piece of information about the elections in Argentina and throughout Latin America?
Okay, you have something else to say?
Yes. It is very important to remember that there is an agreement between the OAS and what is now called Meta, the Facebook corporation, which is nothing more than an intelligence gathering corporation. What is this agreement about? What we have witnessed throughout Latin America is that the fascist sectors of the society are not really using too much of propaganda they used to use before. It is Facebook, it is the social networks linked to this Meta corporation, which is doing all the bidding, all the propaganda for them. We must remember that Facebook, through their alliance with the Cambridge Analytica, they both influenced the election of Bolsonaro in Brazil. They influenced the no vote of the Black youth in Trinidad and Tobago, and they heavily influenced the voting for Trump in 2016. So they have experience, they have the information, they have the data, because as I mentioned before, it is an intelligence gathering operation. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, all these social networks related to this Meta corporation, what is so-called now Meta, is nothing else but a way of finding out what you like, finding out what you share, what you think, and they establish something that is called biometric. These biometrics allow for propaganda to be personalized, and directly they send this personalized propaganda to every single individual who has a connection to these social networks. So they are profiling people, they are profiling what you are, who you relate to, what organizations you belong to, etc., etc. And then they are sending specific information tailored to what you like, what they think you are, to who you belong, what organization you belong to who you connect to, etc. Who are your friends, who is your family, etc. And this is a very powerful propaganda. That's why we see that most of the opposition throughout Latin America has had a quiet campaign. If there was a difference in Peru, was because they didn't think that Pedro Castillo had a real opportunity to become president. Nevertheless, right now, Pedro Castillo is enduring a tremendous backlash, a tremendous propaganda against him, a tremendous push to get him to pretty much forget about all progressive politics, and then to confine to the circle that Facebook, propaganda, and the fascists in Peru want him to be.
Yes, indeed. We know that the propaganda and also the social media are being the massive weapons of this time. We thank you, Mr. Zurlent, for your presence here in From the South. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember,